The flickering streetlight cast long, dancing shadows on the cracked sidewalk, creating an eerie atmosphere that seemed to whisper secrets of the night. A lone figure huddled on a bench, clutching a worn brown coat tighter against the biting wind. The night was cold, and the wind howled through the empty streets, adding to the sense of desolation. His name was John, and the weight of his thoughts pressed down on him like a physical burden. Each passing moment felt heavier than the last, as if time itself was conspiring against him. He was waiting. She was late. The minutes dragged on, each one stretching into an eternity. John checked his watch again, the luminous hands mocking him with their relentless march forward. Time seemed to be playing a cruel joke on him. He knew he shouldn't hope, yet a tiny ember of optimism still flickered in his chest. Despite everything, he couldn't help but believe that maybe, just maybe, things would turn out differently this time. He had poured his heart into their connection. Every moment they had shared played back in his mind like a film reel, each memory more vivid than the last. He had been there for her, listened to her, cared for her in ways he hadn't thought possible. He had given her everything he had and more. A car door slammed shut, breaking the silence. The sudden noise jolted him from his thoughts. John looked up, his heart leaping. Could it be her? The anticipation was almost unbearable. It was her. But as she walked towards him, her face etched with a familiar coldness, his heart sank. The warmth he had hoped for was nowhere to be found. He felt the ember within him begin to fade. The hope that had kept him going was slipping away, replaced by a cold, hard reality. The rejection, he realized with a sinking heart, was etched in every line of her body language before a word was even spoken. The unspoken words hung heavy in the air, a silent confirmation of his worst fears. John couldn't understand it. The more he cared, the more she seemed to pull away. He thought back to their conversations, analyzing every word, every gesture, searching for an explanation. Was it something he had said, something he had done? The self-doubt gnawed at him, a relentless beast pacing in the confines of his mind. He wasn't alone in this painful dance. Human history teemed with stories of unrequited love, of hearts broken by indifference. Why, he wondered, do we reject those who care for us the most? Why do we build walls instead of bridges, pushing away the very people who offer solace and connection? The answer, he was beginning to realize, lay in the complex labyrinth of human psychology. Rejection, while often a painful experience, could sometimes be a defense mechanism, a way of protecting ourselves from potential hurt. But this self-preservation often came at a cost, leaving a trail of broken hearts and unanswered questions in its wake. One of the most potent drivers of rejection is the fear of intimacy. This fear can be so overwhelming that it paralyzes us, making it difficult to form meaningful connections. As much as we crave connection, we also fear its implications. The closer we get to someone, the more we risk exposing our true selves with all our flaws and insecurities. Opening ourselves up to another person, allowing them to see our vulnerabilities, can be terrifying. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if we'll be caught or if we'll fall. It requires a level of trust that can feel impossible, especially for those who have been hurt before. The scars of past betrayals can make the prospect of intimacy seem like a dangerous gamble. John had seen this fear in her eyes, a fleeting panic that would flash across her face whenever he tried to get too close. It was as if she was haunted by ghosts of her past. She would pull back, retreating into herself like a snail retreating into its shell. Her body language screamed of a need for self-preservation. He had initially mistaken this withdrawal for disinterest, but he was starting to see it for what it truly was, a defense mechanism against the terrifying prospect of vulnerability. It was a shield she had built to protect herself from potential heartbreak. This fear, he knew, often stemmed from past experiences. Memories of broken trust and shattered dreams lingered like shadows in her mind. Perhaps she had been hurt before, her trust shattered by someone who had promised love but delivered only pain. The wounds of such betrayals can run deep, leaving scars that are not easily healed. Or maybe she had witnessed the disintegration of relationships around her, the wreckage of broken promises serving as a stark warning against the dangers of letting anyone in. The fear of repeating those mistakes can be paralyzing, making the walls around her heart grow even higher. Sometimes the rejection had less to do with the person offering love and more to do with the unresolved traumas of the recipient. These traumas, often buried deep within, can resurface in the most unexpected ways, influencing behaviors and reactions without conscious awareness. Past hurts, especially those inflicted during childhood, could leave deep scars on a person's psyche, shaping their beliefs about themselves and their ability to be loved. These scars, though invisible, can dictate how one perceives and interacts with the world around them. He had glimpsed fragments of her past, whispers of a childhood marred by instability and loss. The stories she shared, though fragmented, painted a picture of a life filled with uncertainty and pain. These experiences, he realized, had left her wary of connection, convinced that any display of affection was inevitably a prelude to abandonment. Her heart, once open and trusting, had built walls so high that even she couldn't see over them. She pushed away the very thing she craved the most, trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage orchestrated by the echoes of her past. The fear of being hurt again was so overwhelming that it overshadowed her desire for love and connection. This realization, while painful, filled John with a profound sense of empathy. He began to see her actions not as a rejection of him, but as a reflection of her own inner turmoil and unresolved pain. He understood that her rejection wasn't personal, but rather a reflection of her own internal struggles. This understanding, though it didn't erase the hurt, allowed him to approach her with a newfound compassion and patience. It didn't make the pain any easier to bear, but it did allow him to view her actions with a degree of compassion he hadn't felt before. In this way, he hoped to be a source of support, helping her navigate the echoes of her trauma and find a path towards healing.